This is the aerial assassin Will Ospreay here in London, and I'm here to tell you support WrestleTalk and support independent wrestling.
Support WrestleTalk!
Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk Super News. I'm Ollie Davis. We've got a packed show for you today, including my review of All Elite Wrestling's excellent Fyter Fest. Show from the weekend. Spoiler, I thought it was even more excellent than this guy's face suggests. The controversy surrounding a botched chair shot on the event and what this means for the eventual AEW TV. Click the timestamps in the video description below to jump to any of those stories right now. And make sure to have a super click party. Roundhouse super click. And give us a subscribe, click the thumbs up button, and answer our question of the day down below. What did you think of AEW's Fyter Fest? Because I'll be replying to people in the comments from out of nowhere. But first, just as the best wrestler in the world, Will Ospreay, announced at the start of this video, whoa, easy there, Seth Rollins. No, I don't want to look at your bank account or that other thing. WrestleTalk's mission is to support independent wrestling, the lifeblood of this industry we all love. And you can do just that by going to see the Ospreay-created promotion Frontline Wrestling this Saturday the 6th of July in Nottingham, England at 2 p.m, which will see the fantastic Scotty Davis take on WrestleTalk's own scholarship winner Callum Newman. And then after that, in the very same building, you can watch WrestleGate Pro's epic Emerald Grand Prix tournament in the evening, which will also feature a matchup between Guns, Bobby Guns against Nathan Cruz. Get your tickets for both shows using the links in the video description below. But now for that other indie promotion that just really sells t-shirts. AEW's second official pay-per-view Fyter Fest had a brilliant cold open parodying the event's gimmick, the infamously botched and controversial Fyre Festival from 2017. It was a great night-long narrative of a show falling apart behind the scenes, probably the closest we'll ever get to the Larry Sanders Show in wrestling. They had interviews with stagehands rather desperately saying they'd do anything for the company, had the Young Bucks complaining about just having a kids inflatable pool rather than the huge one they were promised, and having 4 swimsuit models on stage. Ironic objectification, which is the easiest objectification to intellectually justify, that had to be replaced by mannequins when the show ran out of money. It's a bold move to base just your second official show around such a pop culture joke, and I can see why some fans felt it cheapened the product and undermined the reported sports-based approach of the promotion. I, however, think it worked tremendously. 2019 isn't based around total kayfabe anymore. All the fans, particularly AEW's more adult demographic, are in on the work. The task instead is making the audience believe in each individual segment's own reality, switching up the verisimilitude, a big word that practically means buying into a fictional world's reality that makes me sound clever, every other skit a match, just like how modern viewers click through different YouTube videos, which means you can go from a Netflix documentary in-joke straight into a time limit draw with a serious concussion post-match angle right after. For me, I thought it worked magnificently, and the AEW team have created a very modern product. And another fantastic element of the card was how every match was booked to get everyone more over than when they started, even in defeat. The opening 3-way tag between Private Party, SoCal Uncensored, and the Best Friends being a perfect example, brilliantly getting over Private Party's insanely athletic moveset, but ultimately being beaten by the more veteran teams. Unfortunately, just like Double or Nothing, the Dark Order post-match reveal, where they creepily surrounded the ring with minions and then disappeared, wasn't effective. Neither was the night's biggest misstep in Ali versus the Librarian Levi Bates. A Librarian gimmick with Peter Avalon feels hokey even beyond AEW's joke-switching powers. At least Brandy Rhodes watched on backstage from an angle she could actually see the screen from. And the final match of the pre-show saw CEO Gaming founder and untrained wrestler Alex Jabali put on a surprisingly enjoyable hardcore match with Michael Nakazawa. All fun, but arguably not the best showcase of your product to a pre-show viewer you're trying to convince to buy the pay-per-view. The main card opened with Strongheart leader Seema beating Christopher Daniels in a fine opening match, getting back a win after SCU beat Strongheart at Double or Nothing. This isn't 50-50 booking though, it just shows how singles competition is different to tag and 6-man matches. Then Rio defeated Yuka Sakazaki and Nyla Rose in a 3-way that was far better than it looked on paper. It's mostly down to Rio and Yuka making Rose look very strong. Everyone came off looking great, even when Nyla got struck by the surprise roll-up, look really angry, then beat beat people up in the ring finish, usually reserved for Samoa Joe. As he's fighting for the inaugural AEW World Championship at August 31st's All Out, it was quite obvious Hangman Page was going to win the four-way against MJF, Jimmy Jacobs and Jungle Boy. But being predictable didn't make it any less fun, with MJF telling the crowd their mums all swallow in a pre-match promo. Mum, how does he know? And Jungle Boy being the perfect Jeff Hardy mix of likable and athletic. The problem is, these four men currently feel slotted in AEW's mid-card, which isn't a slight. That's a fantastic mid-card. The problem is that one of those currently perceived mid-card acts will be fighting against Chris Jericho for the promotion's top title in just 2 months. Having Page win isn't enough to make him a credible title threat. It's who he's winning against that needs to build him up, with big victories over main event talent. Pac, the man who was reportedly originally intended for the Jericho title match, wouldn't have had that problem with his already established reputation. But in a booking masterstroke after the predictable win of Page, Darby Allin, a very compelling character pretty much based around having nothing to lose, took AEW co-executive vice president Cody to a 20-minute time limit draw, when everyone thought a Rhodes victory was a done deal. As spectacular as the two matches to come are, this was actually my favourite of the night, as it took a guy in his debut match and made something of him. It also gave us this guy's reaction to when Darby missed a trust fall off the top rope and fell right on the apron. That, Swath Nation, is the expression of, but that's the hardest part of the ring! The post-match, however, has proved quite controversial, where Shawn Spears, the former Ty Dillinger in WWE, ran down to the ring and hit Cody with an unprotected chair shot to the head. That, while gimmicked, busted Rhodes' head open hard. It was an unfortunate botch and a very ill-advised spot when, as a new company meant to be built around putting the wrestlers first, you really want to avoid the idea you're unsafe. Luke will be covering the fallout to this and what actually happened in the news portion of this episode in a bit. But for me, it wasn't even a good angle, as the history and friendship between Spears and Cody wasn't fully established, meaning it came off as just a superficial hardcore spot for a random heel turn. Speaking of superficial spots, the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid versus the Elite put on all of them, and it was incredible. Their six-man tag with the Elite cosplaying as Street Fighter characters because they lost their ring gear was ridiculously fun to watch, and it subtly continued the professional rivalry between Kenny Omega and Pentagon Jr. Or was it Chris Jericho in a mask? No, it was Pentagon Jr. I think. And the main event went to the dream death match of Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela. And while there was no backstory or character rivalry to make their numerous hardcore spots mean anything, the action was hugely enjoyable anyway, including barbed wire wrapped chairs and boards, a Janela flying elbow off a ladder through 2 tables outside, and thumbtacks. All the thumbtacks everywhere, where Moxley took Joey's boots and socks off and chucked him on the tacks barefoot. Moxley won, which led to an Omega brawl around the stage to close the show, the reverse of the ending of Double or Nothing. But while Kenny stood tall, it was Moxley who really won, manically smiling as the show went off air. His character is about creating chaos, and that's exactly what he's achieved in unleashing it in Omega. A terrific show that I wholeheartedly recommend, although I understand why people would be put off by either the comedy or hardcore spots. And now over to Luke with the news on what happened with that botched chair shot.
Great review, Ollie. I wonder if that chair that Laurie hit me with a few months ago was supposed to be gimmicked. AEW might be off to a hot start as a promotion, with Double or Nothing and Fyter Fest both getting rave reviews from critics and fans, but they're not resting on their laurels just yet. As in just 2 weeks, All Elite Wrestling is heading to Jacksonville, Florida to hold Fight for the Fallen, a show where all of the proceeds will be donated to victims of gun violence. The show will also run on the same day as Evolve's 10th anniversary show, taking place on the WWE Network, which I'm sure is purely coincidental. You know, just like how NXT UK announced TakeOver Cardiff to take place on the same day and just a few hours away from New Japan's Royal Quest in London, and AEW's All Out in the US. It's purely coincidental. Already announced for Fight for the Fallen is Brandy Rhodes versus Ali, Kenny Omega versus Shima, and the Rhodes brothers versus the Young Bucks in tag team action. And it was announced on Fyter Fest that British wrestler Kip Sabian will take on one of the top contenders to the AEW World Championship, Hangman Page. One thing that has been noted from the first 2 AEW shows is the level of violence. From Jimmy Havoc stapling a lit cigarette to Joey Janela, and Dustin Rhodes bleeding a gusher at Double or Nothing, and Darby Allin's insane back bump and that brutal hardcore match between Joey Janela and Jon Moxley at Fyter Fest. And of course, Michael Nakazawa taking a holy S-word bump into the luxurious pool at ringside of Fyter Fest on the buy-in show. Whew, so devastating. However, in a media interview following Fyter Fest, AEW money man Tony Khan said that we shouldn't expect to see All Elite Wrestling's weekly TV show on TNT to be quite so bloody.
We expect some of these things on TNT weekly?
No, definitely not. That was this because this was not TV. This was a streaming show. It was it was effectively a pay-per-view in a lot of the world. In the US it was presented free, but this was a pay-per-view. And so you can expect different rules for pay-per-view. And we said going in, these are non-sanctioned, unsanctioned hardcore matches. And I think that that expectation was going in, and we wouldn't have advertised that kind of violence that, we wouldn't have offered that on TNT. 100% no. So no, that's a good question though, Austin. Thanks for asking, because I'm glad you gave me a chance to clarify.
But of course, perhaps the biggest talking point of AEW's Fyter Fest going by social media feedback was the Cody chair shot heard round the Twitter world. Following his match with Darby Allin, Cody was attacked by Shawn Spears with a vicious chair shot, which was unprotected. The chair shot drew a lot of negative attention to AEW, particularly in a post-Benoit world where concussions and the damage they can do is more in the public conscience. WWE banned unprotected chair shots in 2010, with the company publicly saying that Triple H and The Undertaker were fined for doing one at WrestleMania 27. AEW quickly announced via Twitter that Cody received 12 staples from the chair shot but suffered no concussion, and was back in his backstage role for the Elites match against the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid. In a post-show interview, Tony Khan said that doctors were called immediately and called the chair shot really regrettable. He added, "We'd taken precautions in this situation, in that specific situation, and a doctor was available." Khan later added that the chair was supposed to be gimmicked, meaning it would be as safe as possible to hit Cody with very hard, but it didn't go quite to plan. You could build the safest airplane in the world, and if there's pilot error, there's pilot error. That was not good. And despite Khan's comments, there is reportedly no backstage heat on Spears for the botch. The Young Bucks addressed the chair shot in their post-show media scrum as well, with Nick Jackson saying, "I don't even know what happened, to be honest. All I know is he did get stapled, so I'm going to have a look back and I'll have a comment on it later. I do know that they gimmicked the chair and it clearly didn't work since he was bloody." He also added that it was Cody's idea to do the spot. Thank you for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon pledge hammers, some of which you can see scrolling their way into my stomach. Get your tickets for Frontline Wrestling and WrestleGate Pro using the links in the video description below to support indie wrestling. I've been Luke Owen, and that's We're Wrestling.